Hi, everybody. Good morning again. So, today we are going to look at another one of these very old rums that I've managed to pick up over the years. And because of, by now, I think you know my preference for the Guyanese style, I wanted to go to one of the older ones that I had in my collection. And this is the Cadenhead Demerara, Old Demerara, actually, 1975. So this is a 33-year-old rum, just like the Bristol Spirits we were looking at not too long ago. This was issued in 2008. So a 33-year-old rum is really something to look forward to, especially from the 1970s, which we don't get very often anymore. I mean, to find these things are, really bloody difficult. There is something that it raises questions about that I've never quite been able to figure out, and that's what happened in the early to mid 1970s that made so many different 72, 74, 75 rums turn up. There's nothing from 73, as far as I know, aside from Skeldon. There's nothing from 76, 77 or thereabouts, but I don't know. So, for example, we had the Norse Cast 1975. There is the famous Velier 1972, 74, 75. There's the Cadenhead 75, of which there are actually five. There are five of these things at various strengths and various ages. I think some of them are as low as 38% and some as high as 46%. I don't know what happened during that period, and it may be part of the whole consolidation thing, or they were trying to ship bulk stock over to Shear or to Europe or something. I really have no idea. Nobody's ever been able to answer the question to my satisfaction. So if anybody has any information, I'd certainly like to know if anybody has any ideas as to why this happened. To get back to this rum, though, this is almost like a presentation quality rum of the sort that would come out once in a while from the whiskey maker. So it comes in a nice little box, plastic frontage here, but it's really quite sweet. And there is the usual green label thing. So the green label at that time didn't used to do quite as much as the dated distillation series, but there have been some of those as well, of course. So even back in the 70s and 80s and then into 2000 when these things started to be bottled, we did see that separation that Caden had into their green label or those yellow blends that they used, the yellow labeled blends that they had, and of course the dated distillations, which go back as far as 1962, or distillation of 1962, of which I've had a few. I'm not entirely certain what is in this bottle. It's a Guyanese. I mean, that's about as far as you're going to get. And it is at 40.6%, which suggests that it's been more water than, more alcohol than water evaporated over the course of its life, wherever it was aged. And of course, I do believe that it was aged in Scotland. Beyond that, not a whole lot, right? Let's just get straight into it, I guess. One of the things you'll notice about this rum right away is that it's got a sort of like a muddy, dark look to it. And that's because it's been aged for so long in wood, of course, that's unavoidable. Has it been added to? Hard to say. The hydrometer does test out positive at just about 40.5%, so that part's good. But the only rum that I can remember that is quite this dark, or almost black, if you will, was actually the St. James 1885, which was even darker and even muddier in look. It doesn't have that bright bronze kind of brown or amber that you see in some modern rums that are of similar age, but that may just be something that comes from this far back. I mean, just look at the bottle, right? I mean, you can hardly see through the damn thing. Beyond that, let's take a look. Almost immediately, I can tell you that even if it isn't 100% a Port Morant still rum, it's got a primarily Port Morant distillate in it. It's unavoidable. It doesn't have the sawdust and pencil shavings that you would get from an Enmore. It doesn't have some of that raw power that you would sometimes see in a Versailles if it's not done right. It has those licorice notes on the nose, a lot of anise, dark fruits, prunes, plums, marmalade. It's got a nice touch of aromatic tobacco, like those port-infused cigarillos that I used to smoke back when I did. And I tend to see colors sometimes when I taste things, and for me, this thing is just a very dark brown. That's just the sense I get out of it. And it is really extraordinarily rich. For 40.6%, it's got no business being quite this good or this deep in its combination of various flavors. It's really quite nice. I mean, you could definitely put this into a coffee and it would just spike you up right real nice. Beyond that, Because of its 40.6% strength, it is extraordinarily approachable. This is not one of those cask strength monsters that wants to, basically tear your face off or anything like that. It's gentle. It's very deep. It's very strong in the sense that the tastes just pop very deeply, very nicely. And again, you're getting the same sort of black cake, rummy type notes of, a Christmas cake or a wedding cake from the West Indies that is infused with rum. Lots of prunes, lots of blackberries. There's a very, very faint citrus line going through it. Unfortunately, at this stage, when you start drinking it, there is a certain lessening of that anise and licorice taste that so dominates in some aged port morants that, aren't quite as good as some of the others. All I can say for you is that this really is a fantastic rum from a very, very long time ago. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why, if one could get it, one should try at least to taste it. Now, I'm going to take this over to the Rum Depot in Berlin, I think it's tomorrow evening for some kind of soiree they've got there to see what the boys think of it over there. And I actually haven't seen this one for sale for quite some time. And the other variations of the 5 that I mentioned are even rarer. I think I've only ever seen the 38% or one, the 46% once, and I didn't get a chance to buy it. But they are all very good. It's not that the rums from today from Guyana are bad. No, quite the opposite. Of course they are. They're really quite good. But there is something about the rums from the 1970s that has a fillip of extra depth and flavor and aging that suggests that the way they were making them back then is different from the way they're making it now. And that might be technology, that might be technique, that might be them just experimenting with different ways of doing things. But if you ever want to see and go back into history a little bit and see what these rums are like, see that the sort of thing that went into the Navy blends or to the various independent bottlers that have long been forgotten that I put up in the Romaniacs, the Skippers or the Red Cross or whatever it was, and the Potters and some of the others, you're going to get a sense that this thing is a cut above the ordinary. And that's why I recommend it so highly. It is a really very nice rum. It's very deep. It's very interesting. And while it is completely different in the sense that it has that extra complexity of flavor that comes from such long aging, it stands up really well even now. The bottle doesn't oxidize or anything like that. I've had this on the go for a few hours, and I've opened the bottle last night with my friend Gregor's. All I can say, it's a great rum, and I'm glad I've had the chance to try it, and I can't wait to share it with some other people in Berlin next week. So that's it from today, and we will keep on going as we do. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.